Hello. My voice cracks.
Alrighty.
Anybody here? Waiting. There we go. Okay. I think we're live. Great. Well, hello and welcome everyone to this Freewrite Ask Me Anything session. My name is Colin. I'm the head of marketing here at Freewrite, and I've been with the business now for about 10 months. You probably saw me about 5 months ago when we hosted our last one. I've really enjoyed getting to know a lot of you, reading some of your work, and then seeing some of the creations that the community has been crafting. So this has been a really fun ride for me. So grateful to be here with you today. Super excited to join you today with two very spectacular people. First, we have our co-founder and CEO, Adam Leeb. Adam is a graduate of MIT, and he studied product design and mechanical engineering before working in various fields and industries and prototyping the first Freewrite back in 2014. The rest, as they say, is history. So welcome, Adam. And one of our newest team members, Annie Cosby, our marketing manager. Annie is a published author in the young adult space. She loves her dog, her husband, and Ireland, and not exactly sure the order of that, but many of her books are steeped in Celtic lore. So welcome, Annie. In addition to the three of us, we also have a full engineering and operations team that's kind of working feverishly behind the scenes on new products and helping to get your orders out the door. We are a dispersed team. We're mostly in the Midwest. And so the first thing I'd like to do is just ask chat to let us know where you're watching us from. And while everyone is typing in their answers, I'm going to ask Annie, how you doing? And then what are you reading now?
I'm doing great. It's just starting to feel like spring in my neck of the woods, which I guess I decided was the best time to get really into murder mystery for some reason. So I am in the middle of the Inspector Gamache series by Louise Penny. There's like 20 books, so I'm set for a while.
That's a heck of a series. You've got a lot ahead of you.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so the stream's coming in: Dubai, England, Seattle. Wow, this is an incredible crew. East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, Brussels, Florida. Loving it. This is amazing. Well, thanks for that, and keep commenting as well. So onto the show. Welcome, everybody. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been asking our community to submit questions for Adam to answer live during the session. We've received dozens of fantastic questions. A handful of them we actually answered on previous AMA, so we're going to link to that in the description. And for reference, those included how does the Freewrite differ from other devices, water and shock-proof resistance, printing from the device, new hardware models that are at the ask of new hardware models, e-ink input delay, Freewrite Gen 2 Traveler or Traveler backlight questions, a faster processor, and additional color options. So if any of your questions were about those things, check out. We have timestamps in the previous AMA on those ones. If you're not able to stay the full hour, or if you're joining us late, or if you'd like to watch on double speed, like I like to watch all YouTube, we are recording this and we'll timestamp it for you at the appropriate marks. So I'm going to be asking the questions. Adam will be answering, and Annie is going to be monitoring our chat to answer questions or raise them up to ask of Adam. So feel free to continue asking questions here or follow up on anything that Adam talks about. So I'm going to take Annie off screen right now to focus on the chat. Thank you, Annie. And Annie, there we go. Adam, I'll ask you the same question. What are you reading now?
So I actually just finished the book Tomorrow, and Tomorrow. Really enjoyed it. It was great.
That's awesome. Have you read anything else from her? I think she's got a handful of books. Emily, yes.
I have
Mandel. Yeah.
I have not, but I should. No, Emily Mandel was for the other book that I am about to start.
That's right.
That's the Station. Yeah, Station 11. I read a few years ago, which I really enjoyed, and then she has a new book that I think is going to be my next one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I read Glass. Oh my gosh. Glass
something.
Houses. Yes. Oh my gosh. Now I'm blanking. I just said it a minute ago, but it was a great book. So yeah, you'll enjoy that. So, I'm going to start out with a couple of general questions. We broke these into topics, and these were more kind of general business questions. And this one came from a fellow entrepreneur. He said, creating a company that makes both hardware and software has got to be one of the most challenging to do. Love to hear the origin story of Freewrite. Is that something you can share for us?
Yeah, definitely. So Freewrite started as an idea, and like all great products and great companies, the idea was, what if we took sort of a distraction-free writing environment that people are putting on using software to create on their computers, and what if we created a really simple distraction-free environment and put it into dedicated hardware that was optimized for the writing experience? And that idea came out of a conversation with my then acquaintance, Patrick Paul, who eventually turned into be our co-founder. And he was telling me about some software that he used that disabled the backspace key when he was writing essays. And I thought that was just such an interesting, novel approach to the writing process. And he told me about how by disabling the backspace key, it forced him to move forward, which is sort of obvious. But at the time, I didn't really understand why you would necessarily want to do that. And so that led us down this whole conversation about this writing philosophy where you draft top to bottom and then you edit later in a separate session. And so while we are generally, I wouldn't say taught, but just by default, when we're writing in 2023, we edit as we go because it's very easy to do so in any modern browser editor or writing software. And so for me, when I heard that there's this whole concept of separating the drafting from the editing process, I just thought that was super interesting. And so one thing led to another, and the idea again was, okay, if people are willing to put some kind of distraction-free software on their fancy computer, maybe they would actually prefer a dedicated device. And so that original concept we launched in December 2014 on a Kickstarter after putting out some renders and getting a lot of attention and action. Something like 100,000 people came to our really simple WordPress website. We got about 10,000 emails from people. There was like a constant stream of tweets and people just super excited about this idea of creating a distraction-free writing tool. And so the people spoke, and we thought, okay, like let's put a Kickstarter together and see if people are really willing to pay for it, because there's something physical here, and there's a big difference between people saying, oh yeah, that's a good idea, and them actually willing to spend their hard-earned money on it. And so that's what we did. We put together that Kickstarter as quickly as we could. We launched December 10th, 2014, raised $200,000 in the first 20 hours of the campaign, and we're off to the races. And so we really had no idea what was going to happen. Yes, there was a lot of interest, but it was nerve-wracking. I mean, putting something like that out into the world where there was no real model for this thing. Yes, it was kind of like an old word processor, and it was kind of like a typewriter, and it was kind of like a computer, but it was not. There was nothing that we could really compare against. And so, putting something that is both novel but also has some kind of historical connection. People had all different kinds of preconceived notions of what it should look like, how much it should cost, how it should function. And so we had to just put it out, the way that we envisioned it, and, see what happened. And so, our those early Kickstarter backers pushed it into existence. And so we spent the next year and a half, let's say, doing the actual product development. And I basically more or less moved to China and worked very closely with our factory. We hired engineers. We did all the things that go into developing a really complicated consumer electronic device. Learned about certification, developed packaging, worked on fulfillment plans, built the cloud software. There was a lot to get going for that very initial product run, and started shipping them in, I think, April 2015. 16 April 2016 is when we actually started shipping, and I think we even shipped a few beta units before that, which, looking back at the time, it felt like forever, but looking back, that actually was very fast. And so we were really proud of it. And yes, it was a little bit buggy at the beginning, and yes, there were some crazy things that happened, but it led us to keep improving and getting to where we are now.
That's great. So the first product that came out had, the distinctive tiered keyboard that we know in the smart typewriter today. We've got a handful of questions about the keyboard. The first thing I'd like to ask, or what the community would like to ask, is if you're using a mechanical keyboard, what kind of switches are you using? And so I know that the smart typewriter is a mechanical keyboard. The Traveler is a little bit different. So maybe you can explain the two and answer the mechanical switch question.
Yeah. The mechanical keyboard world has changed dramatically since 2015 or 2014 even. And so our original, what we now call the Gen 1 Freewrite smart typewriter, that keyboard had Cherry MX Browns in it. And those were generally considered the best sort of tactile switches for people that want to do general purpose writing. And so that's what we used. Our Gen 3 product has Kale Browns in it. So they're also a tactile keyboard, tactile switch that are now considered even better than those original Cherry MXs. And we've been super happy with them, and generally people are too. I think the thing that's interesting is that in the last, like I said, 8 years, wow, it's been a long time, the number of key switch options has really exploded. At the time, there was literally a handful, and now there's hundreds and minor variants. And people have a lot of different opinions about switches when you get into the mechanical keyboard world, but the ones we use are really good for 99.9% of people. And also because we know that this is for writing and not just on a computer where people could be doing a mixture of gaming, writing, other stuff, we've been able to we can choose sort of with a high degree of certainty what is a good choice for people. So
Great.
Yeah.
One of the questions we've got around, it has come up a handful of times around suggested features. Will you ever make a device with a larger screen? That came up a handful of times in in the questions. I saw it in the chat. Thank you. Goodness, I'm missing it. Carlos. Thank you, Carlos, for that. Yeah. So do you want to tackle that? Like what the screen, the decision on the screen size is today, and what could be in the future?
Yeah, definitely. So the devices are, again, they're designed to be part of this writing process where you draft top to bottom, and then you edit later on the computer. And so there's always been this acknowledgement that it's let's call it two-step process that also requires more than just the device. Like we know that, and we design the devices in that way. And so we know that when you're doing things like dragging and dropping or copying and pasting or trying to get the formatting right, you really do need a bigger screen. And everyone that we're selling to, all our customers already have that, right, with their tablet or laptop or desktop. And so the reason that we went with a smaller screen is because as for the drafting process, it's almost, in our opinion, it's actually better to have a smaller screen. And so the smaller screen it helps you stay focused on, a small context. It helps you think about what you're writing sort of more clearly. It doesn't distract you with other things, the temptation to add toolbars or anything else on the screen that might take up that, like, quote unquote, free real estate of a bigger screen. And so those are some of the decisions that went into the size of the screen that's on the devices as we have today. Now, to answer the question of would we ever consider making a device with a bigger screen, I think the answer is yes. However, it would be for a slightly different purpose, right? So we don't think of, we think of the screens that are on the current devices as sort of the ideal size. If we were to make a sort of more fully featured writing tool, I think we would, seriously consider another screen size.
Great. On the screen, what about a dark mode? White text on a black screen. Is that possible in e-ink?
So turns out it's a lot harder than we thought. We actually went down this road, and I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but we went down this road of trying to develop a dark mode, and as it turns out, it's way more complicated to do than doing it on a traditional TFT LCD. And so there's actually special screens, there's special algorithms that run the screen, which are called waveforms. And even though we have the support of e-ink, it just turned into sort of a humongous project. And so we kind of had to put it on the back burner. But, we hear you. I think one of the beauties of e-ink is that it doesn't have all of the brightness that goes with a traditional LCD. And so most of the people that are using dark mode is because they don't want their screen to be too bright. And so that's not really a problem with e-ink. And so it's not, it's kind of a nice preference to have, but it's not the same problem that people have that they're trying to fix with a dark mode on a regular LCD display.
Got it. While we're on e-ink, can you talk about the slight delay that consumers might see with the e-ink display when typing? Can this be improved? Has it been improved? What is Freewrite doing about that input?
Yeah, I mean, so e-ink, part of the trade-off with the technology is that the refresh rate is slower than an LCD. And so an LCD is typically sort of 60 hertz is like the baseline refresh rate. So 60 times a second. There's LCDs that now go faster than that, but 60 is sort of the baseline. And an e-ink screen is somewhere between 2 and 5 hertz, even at its fastest. And so, yeah, we have to work as best we can, sort of within the parameters of the technology. The benefits of it, though, are that it's ultra low power, as most people know. It's bistable, meaning that it can keep the image even without power. The contrast ratio is really good, and it's fundamentally just very different than an LCD display. And so one of the things that's really great about the display is that I don't feel like when I'm using a Freewrite device, I don't feel like I'm going from my computer that I'm working on all day to like another computer. It fundamentally feels different. And so, yeah, we do all that we can with the algorithm from both a rendering standpoint and data management to try and reduce the latency as much as possible. So there is, what you're seeing is sort of the built-in technological limitations, but we are, like I said, we are constantly trying to improve, as is e-ink. I mean, they are improving contrast, improving performance, latency all the time with each of their generations of displays.
We've had a handful of folks in the chat today. Kevin reached out, really want to know how I can demo or try a Freewrite product before I buy. We had a similar question. What options do you have for someone to try out the keyboard? I really like to know how it feels. Are there any stores with floor models? Do you have any comments for those folks?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is unfortunately not. We don't currently have any stores demoing the product. Is that going to be forever? Probably not. I think we have done promotional work with different stores over the years. There was a great store called Beta, which I think unfortunately went a belly up, but they had our products in their stores and in a handful of stores in a bunch of areas. I mean, we hear this a lot, I think, and we'd love to get more people to try the product. We consistently hear how much people love the keyboard. And so, yeah, I mean, there's something really tactile and experiential about that. So, heard and hopefully we'll be able to help, fix that someday.
Sure. Great. I had a question come in. What about the ability to send a file output to an email other than the Postbox login email? We'd be able to maybe send to a cloud print email service. Andy in the chat said feature request, having it send to, Postbox or IFTTT, Zapier. So, any options for folks with an alternate email send?
Yeah, we've heard from, people since day zero. How do you print from a Freewrite device? And while we never wanted to get into the realm of having people having to load, printer drivers on the device, since that would just, be a terrible experience. Many modern printers do have the ability to like receive emails as print jobs. Print jobs as emails. And so, yeah, it's something that's been on our radar. It's something that we are working on. So yeah, we'd love to support that.
Another question comes in around syncing for drafts across devices. May I start writing on one machine and finish on another? If I have the smart typewriter at my desk, can I take the Traveler on the go with me?
Yeah, so we've done a little bit to accommodate that situation with the move feature on Postbox. Some people don't even know this exists, but you can move a draft from one device to another. It's not as smooth as I would prefer, but it does work. What we've talked about over the years is adding more syncing features. As most people know, the syncing is one way. So it goes from device to Postbox to your third-party cloud provider. And so the reason that we do that is that's the most robust way to do syncing. It's very difficult to get into a situation where you have conflicts and where you make a change here and then you make a change there, and then the computer doesn't know which is the latest version, and then it either clobbers one version or it makes copies of the two. So you very quickly get into a complicated situation. That being said, there are, this is 2023, and I'm not going to say it's a solved problem, but it is a problem that has been solved by others, and I'd love to, pursue that at some point. It is actually quite a big fundamental change to how we do syncing, and we'd want to do it in a way that gives people a lot of confidence that it works properly, and also gives us confidence that like people are never going to lose their documents, they're not going to lose drafts, they're not going to lose changes, and if there is like a conflict, then they know what to do with it. So those are all the kinds of things that we think about when we're talking about syncing.
Great. This is going to be kind of a multi-part question, but because I'm kind of pulling in a handful of ideas into this one. But we got a comment. Will we ever have a place to view all the milestones that we've hit, like on a profile page? One of my favorite features is progress tracking in Postbox. Can we have a stats dashboard to see the total words we've written? So there's words written within your Postbox account. And then I'm following up this question with one from Fernando, and I think someone else asked this as well. But how do we measure? How does Freewrite know how many words have been written on devices?
Yeah, I'll take the last part first. It's very easy. I mean, just like any other software company, we keep stats, right? So drafts are being saved into our databases securely. And we run, stats to see, how much are people using their devices, and how much are they writing. And so this is just a way for us to sort of, just understand, like, are people using these products? Sometimes it's a little, we want to know, right? Like we want to know, like, yeah, we're actually doing work here that is useful to people. And, we're not just selling things that just, go under someone's bed or in their closet and never get used. And so, yeah, it's not really any more complicated than that. And also we don't really track anything else. I mean, the main thing is, are people using their devices, and that's pretty much it. So the first part of your question is, I think, about a dashboard, right?
Yeah, profile pages or some other way to track progress in Postbox.
Yeah, so a profile page is something that we like, and I think we are we are anxious to provide something like that. And so, yeah, it's something that I think a lot of people have expressed an opinion about, being able to see more about, their progress, being able to potentially even share that with other people. And so, as as the Freewrite platform has grown, I think we are trying to understand like every day more about how people are using it and how they want to use it. And so, I think especially now that we've gone from, having one product or one model to 2 to soon 3, it's just, there's just some fundamental changes that are happening with our user base and how people are, working with their devices. And so we're trying to be flexible and acknowledge like there are some new things when that we didn't think of, in 2014. And so, that's the stuff that we're excited about right now. And I think people are going to be pretty excited to see some of the new features and what's coming out in the roadmap.
That's a great segue. Let's talk about Alpha. Handful of questions in the chat about Alpha. Can you give us kind of the most recent update? We posted an update on Indiegogo just a few weeks ago, but for folks who haven't read it yet, or those that are just coming in now, talk to us about the schedule for Alpha. Where are we? How are we doing? Anything you can share in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're making really good progress. The progress has accelerated as well. We've had 2 new team members join our team full time, both a hardware manager, hardware engineering manager, and now a firmware engineer. And so it's really great to have those resources in house. We've received what they call T0 or first articles. Basically, they finished the tooling, the injection molds for the plastics, and shoot the first parts. And so we've actually received those samples, which is awesome. That's always like, it's a very big day when you sort of get like those first plastics that you've literally been spending, a year engineering and kind of looking at on a computer or in 3D printed parts or some kind of prototyping. And then to actually see like the real engineered plastics coming out of the injection mold, that's always like, that's super fun. So that happened last week or 2 weeks ago. We're working super closely with our factory to, inspect it for any kind of assembly issues, manufacturing issues. For example, like, does the light from the LED bleed into certain places that we don't want it to? How does the feel of the keys, how does the feel of like when you twist the body, when it's all screwed together? How does the kickstand feel? Like all these kinds of things that are really hard to perfectly analyze until you actually have the actual materials with the actual tolerances. And so that's what we're doing now. We are also working, really diligently on the firmware. That's the biggest piece. We're basically trying to rebuild the firmware that we've, spent years and years on from smart from the Smart Typewriter and Traveler, and like redo it all on a microprocessor for Alpha. So it's a big project. And, the good thing is that we have a model, being our existing products, and we have the cloud service that's working and has, a clear API, but there's a lot of work to be done there. So those are the kinds of things that we're working on now. Like I said, we have weekly calls with our factory to sync up on all this stuff. And it's going great. So really fun.
That's awesome. Question about Alpha, and this really can apply to any of the other products in the line. Can you use Alpha offline in an isolated location without any internet connection, using only the USB to transfer files to a computer?
Yeah, and I think that there's, this Alan Jeffers wrote in the chat here too. I think this is one of the things that sometimes people maybe is not as clear as it should be, but all of our products can be used 100% offline. Like you actually don't even need to log into them to use them. And so the flow of let me say this again, you can be in a completely anonymized session on the devices, and they will not sync up to the cloud. They won't sync to us. They don't sync anywhere. And you can still plug them into your computer and download all of your drafts. And so you can do that completely anonymously. You don't even you can open the box and not ever have to log in, just to be 100% clear with everyone. So I think that's I think is like really important. Even if you do log in, which we expect most people to, because that's how you get the most benefit out of the product, but you can work completely offline. So it will work offline, and then when you want to sync, you can connect it to Wi-Fi and it'll sync, as in backing up, really to the cloud. So we really think of this as a way to add redundancy, a way to enable this two-step writing process where you're drafting and then editing on your computer. But yeah, for people that don't want to do that or write in a different manner, like they can stay completely offline.
Great. A couple of quick hit feature suggestions. I'd love a keyboard button press combo that displays a cheat sheet of keyboard shortcuts. Today we see the keyboard layout. Keyboard shortcuts would be a little more helpful. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, so this is kind of a funny little history piece, but the goal when creating these products was to, one, have it be so simple that it doesn't need a manual, and two, not have any keyboard shortcuts. Well, we failed on sort of both of those counts. I think just the reality of making something is that you end up having to explain it to people, no matter how simple it is. And for some reason, there's always shortcuts. And so yes, we could do that. And I think there probably is some room to add some on-device kind of support around shortcuts. The only shortcut that I use is new plus backspace to delete words. And actually, this is one of the things that I wish we had set as the default behavior for the backspace key, which is to delete the whole word at a time, because I find it far better than sort of like deleting parts of the word and then trying to rewrite it as I normally would on a computer. I found that with e-ink, it's just better. I could just delete the whole word and rewrite the entire word faster than I can kind of like surgically go in and edit the word in situ. So yeah, I think, heard again, I think that there's probably some more support we can do on the keyboard shortcuts. My hope is that people don't feel so much need for shortcuts. And I think, maybe we could do a better job there of thinking about what these features are. If people are using them very often, that we can pull them out of a shortcut even. So I'd love to hear what shortcuts people are using on a regular basis.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, if you're using shortcuts on a regular basis, please drop them in the chat. Let other people know. There's very helpful workflow shortcuts that are built in that many people might not know about. So we do have them all listed on our support page at support.getfreewrite.com. So always check that. It's also in the user manual that comes with the device. So very helpful for kind of whipping around your drafts. Okay, we had some tough to categorize questions come in. I categorize these under fun. So am I allowed to write exotic and explicit romance novels on these devices?
Right, whatever you want. I mean, nobody looks. There's no moderation on what people write personally. Yeah, write whatever you want.
It came up in the chat. I mean, are headquarters employees able to read what we're writing?
No.
The faces that appear on the screen of my FreeWrite are devoid of facial features. As I recall, the various writers originally had facial features. How do I fix this? Do you want to talk about? I mean, I think that's a joke, but like, do you want to talk about how how authors are chosen and why they're on the devices as a screensaver?
Yeah, I think
and why they may look that they do today.
Sure.
Like, how did they get their start?
Yeah, I think people sometimes read into this stuff a lot more than how we thought about it. But one of the cool features of e-ink is that you can have something display on it even with no power. So when the devices are sleeping or when they're off, their screen can actually show an image, which is kind of fun. And so yeah, we call them screensavers. And I think early on we came up with this idea to show highlight some famous authors. These are all historical authors, long since dead, and we've picked a handful of them. I think trying to pick a bunch of different people, and then one thing that we've done, which is kind of fun, is with each new major firmware release, we'll add another author screensaver to the mix. And I think, part of the reason that they're slightly abstract is just, we just thought they were artistically a little bit more interesting. We didn't want, we just weren't sure if people would want like these authors to be staring them down. Although with the Hemingwrite, we have an image of Hemingway, which is, much more literal. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's let's say it's more descript, and people seem to really like that. So I don't know, I guess we could have gone both ways, but there's also, I should mention, there is a toggle in Postbox for people to turn on the quote unquote simple screensaver if people don't like the author screensavers. So I'll take this opportunity to say also that one of the big pushes in terms of software going forward is sort of more customization. And so things like screensavers, things like console screens, seen a lot of questions about those. We've kind of set, what the options are very early on, but that it wasn't always our intention to keep that fixed forever. And so I think like as the company is growing, as our user base is growing, as you guys, as we hear from you, I think, one of the things that we want to do is support a little bit more customization of the product and we want people to feel like these are theirs. And so people are putting stickers on their products, which is great. People are, doing all kinds of things. I've seen people even take them apart and paint them, which is unbelievable to me. I love seeing stuff like that. But even on the software side, one of the focuses for the upcoming year is to add some customization features for that. So stay tuned. But thanks for the question about the authors.
And then let's touch on the future. This did come up in our last AMA a little bit, but we've continually built new generations of the smart typewriter. People are legitimately asking if there'll be a Traveler 2 or new colors. What's on the roadmap? How do you think about that?
What? The roadmap?
What roadmap?
Well, I don't want to say exactly what's on the roadmap, but we are working on a lot of things. So we've never had as many projects online right now, like in progress right now. That's the benefit of having more people on the team. So we are working on both more software features. We're working on some more limited and special editions that I think people are going to get really excited about. The fundamental product experience is not changing, just to be clear, but we have a lot of fun things that we're working on, as well as some new things for us as well. So I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah.
Well, that's a great place to maybe ask this last question. Looking at the long term, how do you view the future of Freewrite? As staying largely the same and focusing on the niche you're already targeting, or would you like to expand and see it in a bigger ecosystem with more products 10 years plus down the line? This person also said, I wouldn't hate a distraction-free e-ink tablet that syncs with the Freewrite devices in Postbox.
I wouldn't mind that either. It's admittedly something I've thought about, and we've watched our friends at Remarkable and now all their competitors really build an incredible product and product line in that niche. I think we have something to offer there. That being said, we're not currently working on that. However, I think that there's incredible room for opportunity and ways to continue supporting our writers. The Freewrite brand to me is about creative expression and writing productivity. And so we are, so far really focused on a very specific area within those two ideas. And I would love to see us, continuing to build on that. And so, I've said this internally, and I'm not afraid to tell all you all, but with the smart typewriter, with the Traveler, and very soon with Alpha, I mean, we're sort of at every price point and every sort of feature level that I can conceivably imagine, this type of product to be at. And so for us to keep growing and for us to keep thinking about what's next, it will be some really new and novel things that we're working on. So yeah, I think we're here to continue supporting people and really trying to continue to innovate as well. I think like one of the things for me is that I don't want to contribute to more e-waste in the world. And so that actually sets a pretty high bar of what we should be putting our time and energy into. I want to make products that are not chasing, a trend or not chasing a specific feature set, but are also trying to, make a real mark and have longevity into the market. So we're trying. But these things take time. And if you want to do something really novel, there's risk and a lot of development that has to go into it.
That's great. That was the end. That was the last of the questions that we got from our survey. But I just did notice 2 questions that came in right around the same time around screenwriting format. Anson asked, does the Freewrite support screenwriting format, and how does this appear on the display? Right before that, Andy had asked, or had said that Markdown and Fountain are some of the best features that are in the Freewrites today. Can you comment about the use case for screenwriting and the Markdown options within Freewrite?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because when we initially came out with this Freewrite concept, I'd say the most vocal group was actually the screenwriters. And so we were hearing from screenwriters very early on, will this support screenwriting? And so, the short answer is yes, because it's a text tool. And actually, we've been supporting Fountain syntax for a very long time as well. And so some people don't know about this. And it is, if you're just going to be very casual about screenwriting, it's a little complicated. This is not our invention, but it's basically a special subset of Markdown specific to screenplay formatting. And so you can actually access that option in Postbox. But what that means is that you can use plain text on your device and use the Fountain Markdown syntax, and it will actually output as an FDX, final draft, which is sort of the gold standard in screenplay writing. And it'll output an FDX file that is fully formatted if you do it correctly. Again, it's pretty complicated just having this Fountain syntax, but it does work, and people do use it. So it's pretty cool.
And then Alan, I just saw your note. Does the Freewrite offer several fonts and character sizes? It does. That is selectable within the Postbox account. You can actually choose the size of the font and different keyboard layouts as well. Well, that is going to wrap us for today. I really appreciate everyone joining us today. I'm going to finish with just a little housekeeping. If you wrote in today, if your question didn't get answered, or you have an issue or a problem with your device, please get in touch with us. We have our support help desk available. That's hello@getfreewrite.com. We'll absolutely get you sorted there. Second, we are sponsoring NaNoWriMo again this year. Camp Nano is underway right now. I hope that those of you who are participating are making really great progress on your goals. And as a reminder, we are offering NaNoWriMo participants a special offer, and you can visit our website at getfreewrite.com/nano for more details on that. And then finally, just I'd like to extend some gratitude. First of all, to you, the community. Thank you for being a part of this brand, for your questions, for watching. We are so appreciative of you to be able to do this. Second, Adam, thanks for sitting down for this grilling. And then Annie, thank you so much for helping us recruit the questions, helping us manage the chat and supporting the stream. So really, really happy to have you here. And with that, we are going to sign off. We will probably do another one of these. So look out for another one in the future. But until then, have a fantastic week, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Take care. Bye-bye.